Look at all this loot! DJ, none for you! Welcome back, I'm Captain Xavier, and I am a shameless fan of getting free stuff. Especially when it's new and interesting stuff. Stuff that I haven't ever actually played with before. A couple of weeks ago, somebody asked me about my view on a line of CO2-powered blasters. And I gave my thoughts on it in that video. And then not a couple days later, this company... Umarex? Umarex. Maybe that's just the shipping department. Anyway, contacted me about a line of CO2-powered blasters called REKT and asked if I'd be interested in reviewing them. And I said, of course I would be, because that sounds neat, because then I'd actually be able to really answer that other person's question of, are these viable? Is there a place for these? Can they do stuff? The box is quite absurdly nifty. Sounds broken. Alright, let's get into this and take a look at them, because I want to play with them. I hope they have cartridges. The boxes get cooler. Look at that. They're in my colors. Give me this stuff. Give me this thing. Oh. Look at that fancy promo box looking thing. Get this off of here. Come on. Oh, there we go. There's another one underneath. Alright. I don't know if they're supposed to be... No, I see. They are, I assume supposed to be like that. What's under here? There's a drawer. Oh, look, cartridges. Oh, come on. No, behave yourself. Behave yourself. Okay, come on. There we go. There we go. Alright, well, they come with impact-resistant polycarbonate safety glasses in my colors. I really like those. I'll probably fog them instantly if I actually try to wear them. Comes with a what? Comes with a bag. No! And things to keep them on your face. What's going on? Okay, there's darts all over the place. CO2 cartridges stuck in places I don't think we're meant to have CO2 cartridges. Okay. 4 cartridges. Darts. The darts appear to be what we, I think, generally refer to as Vowberries. Not the softest of heads, but not quite FVJs. They are at least hollow, but they're pretty rigid. But these are billed as being higher power and all that. Alright, so there's that. Alright, let's take a look at the thing. Yeah, so those are alarmingly realistic looking. I'm sure those of you who know firearms can identify what they're supposed to look like. I cannot. I don't. I know they also have a rifle version that looks disturbingly realistic. Alright, let's see if I can figure out how you release it. Does it just pop open? Is there a screw open? Okay, just pops open in the back. Tank goes in. Twist this down. I assume that was it locking into place. Save. Fire. Okay, that's the safety. Mag release is just decoration. Slide does not move. Decent sights. Okay. See what happens. Dart seats all the way in. And it does a thing. Now, right. See what happens. I missed. $78. $87. 84. 81. Alright. I'll have to test accuracy, but it's currently dark. So, to the range when the sun comes up. Alright. I'm here at the range. Sun, dome, deal with it. I've got targets set up at 25 feet and 50 feet. We'll see if we can hit anything. I've put a fair number of rounds through this one, so I have no idea how many shots one of these cartridges is good for. I do have the other blaster as well as a spare tank, should it come to that. I will start by firing 4 of the darts that came with it, because I consider that to be a reasonably fair test. And then I've got a whole variety of other darts, all the different major dart types that we use, and we'll see if that makes any difference. I don't know where those last 2 went. All right, so that was theirs. 2 out of 4. Other 2 seemed to drop for some reason. Now we're going to start going through some different dart types. So we'll start with AccuFake. Dropping real hard all of a sudden. Something up with the barrel. All right, we'll try Men Gun. Wonder if I'm getting low on air and the velocity is dipping that bad. Waffle Tip. That kind of, I think it might be starting to drop on me. We'll keep going. I think this is a Busby, their accurate line. Well, that one just went. Interesting. Okay. Worker Full Length. That one had no velocity. Orange Dome Tip. No good. And finally, I think this is Zuru. Yeah, higher velocity, but no accuracy. Right, now I'm going to try for distance, which I can't go particularly high arc because there's still a lot of branch cover, but we'll see how far we can get them to go. I'll probably try a couple of shots, and then I will probably switch to the other blaster with the fresh tank, just because I don't have any idea how many shots you can get out of one tank, and this one's fired a fair number. So here we go. And again. Oh. Let's try that accurate one. Headshot. All right. Oh, that one I think blew out. All right, let's go take a look at that, and then we'll switch to the fresh one. All right, well, we had one that barely made it to 20, and I wonder if it blew out the sides or something. Does not appear to have. One here at 40. And then the accurate one where I actually got a headshot at 50 feet. That's fairly impressive. Another Accu fake. We had the largest grouping here, around 55 of a variety of different darts. Waffle head, the Vowberries that came with it, that I think it's X-Shot. Another men gun back here. And then there was one that made it all the way out here to all the way out here to 85. One of theirs. So some potential there. And we got one here between 60 and 65. Interesting. Alright. Alright, we have the second blaster with a fresh tank in it that has been in my pocket, so hopefully it's not too cold. And we'll see if we can see any noticeable difference if that one was perhaps suffering from having a low tank. I have no idea where that went. I think that was definitely the case. These seem to have a lot more power. I'm going to aim at the further back one. Well, that was a magnificent failure. Proceed to random darts. I'm dubious. A couple of those had their heads blown off, so I'm going to try with some Adventure Force just to see how they behave. A little bit straighter, at least. But dropping. Yeah, the sights are off, or this thing's off. All right. I have a variety of half darts and a stick. Because there is a post down there that it actually settles on. Nope. Try a Gen 3. Headshot, alright. And orange dome tip. Nope. Dubious. I think I've got another Gen 3. Gen 3s work all right. One more Gen 3. Headshot. All right, well, it likes Gen 3s if you seat them down really good with a ramrod of some sort. All right, well, upon reading the manual, which they highly recommend, there are a number of things in here that I found interesting. They obviously don't recommend making any modifications to it, so I'm not going to open it because I wouldn't know the first thing about the inside of this. They tell you, which canisters to use. Only use 12G CO2. Do not use other types of gases. If you drop it, take a good look at it before you do anything with it. They also talk about never displaying or brandishing this in public, because they do in fact recognize that this looks remarkably like a real weapon, especially if you were to paint it, which they of course also say don't do. And yeah, obviously all the usual safety requirements for, don't shoot at eyes, always use eye protection. This one also has the added risk of escaping gases. They make sure you don't put your hand or your head near where the gas is coming out, because it's coming out extremely cold and could cause frostbite to places you don't want frostbite. So, yeah. I do appreciate that they understand the risks that are inherent with this. The other thing that they mention about carrying it around in public is it might actually be illegal where you are. Anything that fires using CO2 it's possible that your local city has some sort of an ordinance against them, whether it be pellet guns or airsoft guns, or in this case, dart blasters. They may have a city ordinance not allowing them to be
carried around or fired in city limits just as if they were a firearm. So be aware of that if you are considering getting one of these. Make sure you know what your local laws are. I definitely would not feel comfortable using these at a public event, even as brightly colored as they are. The fact that they're CO2 powered would make me really nervous, even if, I would definitely check with where we hold our war whether or not they're allowed. I wouldn't want to use this anywhere but a private event at, say, Afterworlds or something like that, where something like this, if it were allowed, I know Afterworlds doesn't allow CO2 powered blasters. They've even severely restricted what kind of HPA you can use. Now, our local wars allow HPA if it hits below the limit. And we've got at least one guy who runs a whole bunch of really neat HPA blasters that he's dialed down to be within our limit, and they're just really neat. But CO2 again gets into that gray legal area where I just wouldn't bother. I mean, there isn't anything about this that makes it such an amazing blaster that I'm willing to take that risk. That's kind of where I stand on this, because hitting mid 80s, low 90 FPS, that's, yes, better than stock, but it's well below what we usually have for a modded pistol. K26 and a Night Finder and a brass barrel will get higher than that. So, and will be more accurate. The accuracy on this was surprisingly poor, and it kind of felt like there was too much power for the barrel. It has, similar to a Nerf blaster barrel fit, it's a loose barrel fit until about there, and then it suddenly gets tight. So you've got gases escaping around the edge, and it's causing it to not fly as true as if it had a longer brass barrel or a scar barrel or something like that. But they highly recommend not modifying it, and in this case, I'm with them on that, because, again, you're firing super-cooled air, or CO2, out of that barrel, and that could do unexpected things to your brass barrel. It could cause it to shrink. It might actually cause it to fly out, which would be bad if it shrank and the seal was better on the dart than it was on the brass. You could end up launching your whole brass barrel. Probably wouldn't go very far, but again, not worth the risk as far as I'm concerned. Now, the one thing that these have definitely going for them is that they don't require being primed. Once you have the CO2 in it, you can just load, fire, load, fire, load, fire, load, fire. And that is the one thing that this has over pretty much all Nerf pistols. There are some Nerf blasters that you pump them up and they have enough air to fire more than once. But having a single-shot pistol, which would hypothetically qualify in pistol rounds if your group were to allow these, that would give you a bit of an edge. The range and accuracy is then poor enough that I'm not sure how much of an advantage it would really be, but you wouldn't have to constantly be priming the blaster. Now, at the same time, the downside is that it takes CO2 cartridges, which are consumable. They run out. These capsules, I think I would estimate it got about 50 shots before the performance started to take a noticeable dip, and then at about 75 shots, the darts weren't even leaving the barrel. So that is something that you would have to keep in mind, and swapping out cartridges in the field is not exactly easy. It's not terribly complicated, but it's definitely a lot harder than swapping out a magazine or, something like that. Springers obviously don't run out of power like that. So in a LARP, if your LARP actually allowed them, these would actually be pretty cool, because they do look hyper realistic and even have the little smoke that comes out the end when the cartridge is fairly fresh, the capsule is fresh. So on private property, paint it up to look realistic, it would be pretty cool. At that point, you would want to treat it as if it were a firearm, as far as carrying it in a case, making sure that it's transported safely. Obviously, having a real firearm is legal and can be done safely, so if you make this look like a real firearm and you treat it like a real firearm, you should be safe. But again, not worth the risk if there isn't enough benefit. So that's kind of where I stand on these. They're neat. They do everything that they claim they will do. They are a CO2-powered dart blaster. They do have higher performance than most stock dart blasters, though not all stock dart blasters. There are obviously rival hits considerably higher than this, and there are some dart blasters out there that hit higher than this. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on them. They're neat. I wouldn't have bought it, and with the exception of very specific purposes, I I really wouldn't recommend getting it, especially not just if you're just into Nerf. If you're into LARP, there's a potential niche, but it would depend on whether or not your LARP allows CO2. I know Afterworlds doesn't. I'm pretty sure Dystopia Rising doesn't. So those are the two really the big ones around here. I wouldn't be surprised if the ones in Germany or Europe do allow it. So there is potential there. So yeah, those are my my thoughts. I don't know what I'm gonna ever do with them. Probably plink around my property with them, because private property in a small town in Washington, I'll probably be fine. But I'm definitely not going to take it to any of the big events, and I'm not going to take it to any public wars. Maybe for the CQB stuff, if we do pistol CQB in my woods, I might actually be willing to use this at that point, because range and accuracy isn't going to be so important, and not having to prime the blaster, being able to reload quickly, that would be an advantage. So again, there are very limited places where I can see these having a place, but be very, very careful and really look into both your club's rules, your city's laws, anything like that before you look into getting one of these. But if you have one of those places where it is actually useful, yeah, these are honestly pretty cool. They're very realistic, very comfortable. They do function. So those are my final thoughts. Definitely thank you for sending these. These are really, really cool. They do also have a rifle that looks terrifyingly like an AR. And I don't know if it has more power, less power, if it's actually magazine fed. I didn't look into it because I wasn't sure what they were going to send me. Yeah, very, very cool. I'm glad I got to play with these, and I'm going to have fun with them one way or the other. So, yeah, thank you for watching.